So I'm talking about mindfulness today. Anybody familiar with that term, mindfulness? Okay, it's a very big term. So for the next 10 minutes, I'll be talking about mindfulness. It's a term that's just taken off. It's skyrocketed in the number of times it's used and the different contexts. So I'll be giving the word mindfulness a definition, a context, how it's useful, what programs there are, and where you can find the programs, and what benefit mindfulness can be. So there's a lot to say, but I'll keep it down to the 10 minutes. I'm drawing from my own personal experience. I'm also taking from the perennial wisdoms. I'm also taking from Jon Kabat-Zinn, which many of you know, the mindfulness-based stress reduction. There's also Alistair Cunningham, the Healing Journey program, which used to be here, was developed here at Princess Margaret, and now it's found a home in, thank you, thanks. Okay, a home at Wellspring. And then also people like Rick Hansen, who's a psychoneurologist. You could just show there's so many people that are interested in mindfulness, the effects of mindfulness on our brains and on our emotions. So to start, I'll give you a very nice description of what is mindfulness to get us started. And it's by Thich Nhat Hanh, who's a Buddhist monk, and he's from Vietnam, and he's also an activist. So if we listen slowly to what he says, it'll sink in. Mindfulness is awareness of what is going on in and around us. It requires stopping, pausing, looking deeply, and recognizing both the uniqueness of the moment and its connection to everything from the past and future. And mindfulness, and this is why it's important for us, mindfulness can help us survive and thrive. It's a continual practice. So why highlight mindfulness today? With mindfulness, meaning connecting to ourselves, connecting to the present moment, connecting to who we are, the practices help with our well-being. It helps with feeling more grounded. It helps with our confidence, feeling that we're making decisions from our own inner authenticity. And we have many important decisions to make. So when we make them, it's better when we can go from feeling solid within ourselves. So why do we need this Mindfulness Survival Kit? Most of us go through life in a very habitual way, solving problems, studying, planning, perhaps even feeling a sense of safety. Subconsciously, we all build like a shield to feel safe and function effectively. We have a monkey mind. We have a wandering mind. It's constantly busy. It follows our sensations. It follows our beliefs and our views. It can move anywhere unless it has something to really focus on. But that wandering mind can take us down paths that can cause us a lot of suffering and cause harm to ourselves and lead to a lot of confusion. So our minds are caught, can be caught. You may be able to relate to this in worries, in fears, sometimes in anger, sometimes in regrets. We're caught in the past, we're caught in the future. We're not in the present moment. So to live life deeply, we need to be in the present moment. If we're not, we're in forgetfulness. And the opposite of forgetfulness is mindfulness. So then all of a sudden there can be major events in our lives, a job loss, a loss of relationship, being involved with a natural disaster, or the diagnosis of cancer, being diagnosed with a life-threatening illness. And it involves not only the individual, but also all the families. And at that time, it can feel like the ground has moved under us. There's a shattering of our worlds can happen. There's tremendous confusion. So a crisis can launch us out of our normal thinking. And sometimes we look for new ways to cope. new ways to understand ourselves and others. So yeah, we have many emotions, as Gary was saying, many, many emotions, some very wonderful emotions and some very distressing emotions. And you can probably say we experience those as we go through cancer, pre-diagnosis, diagnosis, treatment, if we've gone into remission or recurrence, or the journey as is up there. We experience many, many emotions that can feel very tremendously confusing and not grounding. And it comes honestly. It comes very honestly. It's from our evolution. There have been hair trigger mechanisms that have been developed in our primitive brain, and that activates that feeling of fight, flight, or freezing. It's very, very natural, but it's from our primitive brain. And it drives us when we're very stressed, and even when we feel subtly threatened, that feeling can kick in. So that's a reactive mode, and it was great for our ancestors to stay alive. To stay alive in the wild, be useful in urgent situations. It's not useful for us all the time. It may move us to take action when we're in trouble, but that fire alarm keeps going off on and on and on. We get hijacked by the distressing feelings. So it's how do we stop them? How do we get back to home base? And just very quickly, Ann Armstrong Gibson, she was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and she actually started Wellspring. She knew medical treatment was incredibly important, but also she saw right away it was more. It was more than that. It was, how do we take care of our emotional well-being, our family's well-being? How do we learn new skills? How do we get support? And so that's why in her imagination, a powerful imagination to invent, she thought of Wellspring, and she worked closely with people from Princess Margaret and many, many people in the system, and started Wellspring. And it was a tiny coach house on Wesleyan Church, and people went, and then the members and other people kept saying, let's try this, let's try that. And it really did grow, and there were other Wellsprings around. And so that whole psychosocial piece was Wellspring was part of. And as you heard today, there's some excellent programs here, excellent programs all around the city. There's Gilda's, there's Willow. You probably know more than I do. So always looking for those great programs to help you with the emotional upheaval. But you can do something. You do have an inner resource to help you come home. And as a mindfulness practitioner said, how to ground you, she said, it's challenging to face and to live with a serious illness and want to maintain a state of well-being. She wrote a book called Being Well Even When You Are Sick. It's a very good book. So what does mindfulness mean? How do we use it? How do we cope with the myriad of thoughts, emotions, behaviors that we face with the diagnosis of cancer? The word mindfulness, some of you know, has been very connected. It used to be with Buddhism, but now many, many traditions look at mindfulness. So the one thing I'll add is John Kabat-Zinn. It is the paying attention in a particular way from moment to moment, but non-judgmentally. So mindfulness can help empty your mind. It can help empty your mind. And what that does is we have many preconceived ideas, many beliefs. So even when we're going through treatment or after treatment, if our minds are so full, like if you keep pouring tea into a teacup and it runs over, you can't put anything more. So mindfulness practice helps empty your mind a bit, settle you down, so you can hear the information, so you can get a sense of what you want to do and go from there. It is a practice, and there are many kinds. Sometimes it's just breathing. Just you sit there now, take a breath, and breathe out. And you do that 3 or 4 times. That can be a mindfulness practice. Or you can do it 30 minutes, 30 minutes. You can do the MBSR program. There are many, many programs. Just look for them, and the last thing I'll leave you with is choose the ones that make sense to you. Give them a try. And if they feel right, that's good. If not, don't force yourself to keep trying to do them. But mindfulness practice, meditation practice, the relaxation imagery feed into that powerful tool that you have, that you can have at any time of the day or night. Thank you.